When we talk about leadership, we often imagine someone standing on a stage, speaking with confidence, inspiring a room full of people. But real leadership doesn't happen in front of crowds. It happens in the quiet moments, in the choices we make when nobody is watching, and in the responsibility we carry simply because someone else is counting on us. Leadership is not a position. It is a behavior, and it is available to anyone who chooses it. I've always believed that leadership begins not with what we do, but with why we do it. The world is full of people chasing pressure, chasing deadlines, expectations, and the need to prove themselves. But the best leaders don't chase pressure. They choose purpose. Pressure pulls us in the direction of survival. Purpose guides us in the direction of impact. I remember speaking to a group of young officers once. They told me about the weight they felt every morning when they put on their uniform. A weight not of fear, but of responsibility. A sense that their decisions carried real consequences, not just for themselves but for their teammates, their mission, and sometimes even for people they would never meet. That kind of responsibility forces you to think differently. When your actions affect the people you care about, you stop asking, "What do I need?" and start asking, "What do they need from me?" That is leadership. It's the willingness to put the needs of others before your own, not because you have to, but because you believe in the power of serving something bigger than yourself. People often ask, "How do I become a better leader?" And the answer is surprisingly simple. You start by listening. You listen to understand, not to react. You listen not for the sake of having the right answer, but to make the other person feel seen and heard. In a world full of noise, great leaders create clarity. They make others feel safe enough to speak honestly, and supported enough to take risks. Leaders create environments where people can fail without fearing shame. Because when people feel safe, they innovate. They collaborate. They grow. When people don't feel safe, they hide their mistakes, they stay quiet, and they only do the bare minimum. The difference between a high-performing team and a struggling one isn't talent, it's trust. Trust isn't built in one big, cinematic moment. It's built in tiny, consistent actions. It's built when you show up on the tough days, when you keep your word even when it's inconvenient, when you take responsibility not only for your successes but also for your shortcomings. Leaders go first. They take the first step toward trust, the first step toward vulnerability, the first step toward honesty. People don't follow leaders because they're perfect. They follow them because they're real. Because they care. Because they're willing to admit when they don't know something. Because they treat the people around them like human beings, not resources. When a leader walks into the room with humility, they make everyone else strong. When a leader walks in with ego, they make everyone else small. I once heard a story about a commander who always ate last. At the end of long, exhausting days, when the whole team lined up for meals, he would stand at the back. He wanted every soldier, every specialist, every support member to eat before he did. To an outsider, it might look symbolic, maybe unnecessary. But to the people he led, it meant everything. It showed respect. It showed humility. It showed that he understood something vital. Leadership is not about being served, it's about serving. When leaders choose to serve, something remarkable happens. Loyalty grows. Not the kind of loyalty that comes from fear or authority, but the kind that comes from gratitude. People will go above and beyond when they feel valued. They will fight harder when they know their leader believes in them. They will stay committed when the mission gets tough, because they aren't working for a paycheck, they're working for a purpose. Purpose is what gives meaning to sacrifice. When we know why we're doing something, we can endure almost anything. But when our why is unclear, even the smallest challenges feel overwhelming. Purpose whispers. It doesn't shout. It shows up in quiet reflections, in moments of doubt, in the pause between stress and decision. Leaders who listen to that whisper never lose themselves to pressure. Think about how we respond when someone inspires us. We sit up a little straighter. We feel more hopeful, more connected, more determined. That feeling doesn't come from the loudest voice or the boldest claim. It comes from authenticity. From someone who believes deeply in what they're saying. From someone who acts with integrity long before they speak with confidence. Leadership is not a performance. It's a promise. A promise to protect, to elevate, to encourage, to guide. And yes, leadership can be lonely. There will be days when you're misunderstood. Days when people question your decisions. Days when you give everything and still feel like you're not doing enough. That is the paradox of leadership. You give more than you receive, yet you grow more than you ever expected. The leaders who last are the ones who understand that the journey is not about being right, it's about bringing people together. They don't compete against their own team. They don't use pressure to gain control. They use trust to build commitment. Imagine a world where leaders everywhere behaved like that. Where leaders asked, "How can I serve?" instead of, "How can I win?" Where leaders focused less on being admired and more on being accountable. Imagine workplaces, schools, teams, families where people felt valued not because of their titles, but because of their contributions. The good news is, that world isn't far away. It begins with individual choices. It begins with people like you choosing to lead differently. Choosing to care. Choosing to listen. Choosing to put purpose over pressure. Because the truth is, leadership is not rare. Courage is not rare. Compassion is not rare. What's rare is people who practice these things daily, consistently, quietly, without applause, without recognition, without needing credit. Those are the leaders who change cultures. Those are the leaders who inspire generations. Those are the leaders we never forget. So if you're watching this, maybe today is the moment you step into leadership with a new mindset. Maybe today is the moment you choose purpose instead of pressure, service instead of ego, authenticity instead of perfection. Leadership is not about being the hero. It's about helping others become heroes themselves. And when you do that, when you choose to lead with humility, with courage, with empathy, you become the kind of leader people trust. The kind of leader people follow not because they have to, but because they want to. The kind of leader whose impact lasts long after the job is done. In the end, leadership is simple. It's about making someone else's life better. It's about using whatever influence you have to lift others higher. It's about showing up, even when it's hard. It's about choosing purpose, every single day. And the world needs leaders like that, leaders like you, now more than ever.